Hey, it's Dan here. Today we're covering serial compression as part of a whole series of videos I'm doing on compression. Let's get into it. Serial compression is simply two compressors in series, one after the other, working on the same piece of audio in such a way that a single compressor would not be able to do. Now, to a certain degree, you may already find that you're doing this in your mixes. Some of you might be using compression on your drum submix and then following that up with some compression over the entire mix. Although the difference being that the master compression is on the entire mix for the second compressor in that series, not just a single instrument, which is how we approach this technique. And when we're talking about this technique, there is no getting past the fact that a compressor is just an automatic gain reducer and that they turn down audio when it gets past the threshold. It's a great invention, but it doesn't hear audio the same way we do. And we, as audio engineers, want to be able to control how the compressor does this job as much as possible. But sometimes we're at the mercy of the limited controls we've got available. For the most part, I think we want an audio signal that is both controlled but also dynamic, which quite frankly to the compressor means two competing outcomes. The compressor basically says that you can't have it both ways, or can you? Well, you can, but with one compressor, it's always going to be a compromise. The basic theory of serial compression is that we metaphorically split these two competing needs of retaining dynamic range and controlling the sound between the two compressors by having one knocking off the loudest parts of the audio and presenting that to the following compressor with a relatively tamed signal that won't hit it as hard and be turned down more than necessary. It's basically knocking down the audio in gentler steps instead of giving it one great big thwack on the head when it gets too loud, thereby achieving a controlled yet dynamic signal in the process. To my ear, it's a much more subtle and smoother form of compression that retains the dynamic range better than a single compressor alone, simply because it works in consecutive stages to combat the peaks of the audio. In this example, we have a raw vocal with no compression. Here it is in its full dynamic glory.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, and I would offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love.
Let's now apply a 4:1 compressor and see how that sounds. I'm using a relatively slow attack to retain the transients, and the release is also quite slow also, so we don't get any noticeable pumping or breathing happening.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case.
Let's copy across those same settings and reduce the ratio to 2:1. We're going to follow this up with another 2:1 compressor so that we have a total of 4:1 on the entire track as we had before, due to the fact that compression multiplies at every stage. On the first compressor, we move the threshold up a bit higher, and because of this we can afford to be a little bit more aggressive with our attack and release settings, as this compressor is only seeing the loudest parts of the audio. The second compressor is pretty much as we had our 4:1 ratio compressor set. It has similar attack and release settings, but obviously with the exception of a lower ratio. Here's how that sounds.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case.
I'll play that again. Original 4:1 followed by 2 times 2:1 ratio so that you can hear the differences.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, and I would offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love. When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, and I would offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love. When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, and I would offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love.
Now you may not be able to hear this very well on YouTube, but just as a visual guide, I bounced out these two approaches so that you can see the difference between the two. If we grab the bounce that had the two compressors on it and hover it over the other, you can see that it's controlled but still quite dynamic, and if anything a bit louder than our single compressor version overall, because we haven't sucked the life out of it with compression in one hit. Of course, having said that, there's more than one way to achieve a great result. This is not a rule, but just a technique. If it were a rule, I have surely broken it many times, I can assure you. I'll cover some of those approaches as I release more videos. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments or ideas for new video tutorials, please email me at yamahadrums2009@hotmail.com, and please subscribe to remain informed of video updates. Until next time, happy mixing.
I would offer you a warm embrace.